Hey gang, this is Dee from CatalystEnergies. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the Catalyst report for the astrology of the upcoming new moon in Aquarius at 4 degrees and 21 minutes of Aquarius. That's happening on January 24th, 2020 at 1:43 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that would be 4:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. And what would that be? That would be 9:43 Greenwich Mean Time or UK time. So yeah, this is our chart for the new moon at its exact point. It looks like maybe like a second past. The moon is a second past the sun in terms of degrees, minutes, and seconds. And, you know, I feel like this is going to be an extension, honestly, of the square that we had yesterday with the sun and Uranus. And also, the sun, also in Aquarius, had a sextile, harmonious connection. You can see it right here. Actually, it's still very strong with Chiron in Aries. And so the moon in Aquarius is going to go into Aquarius at 5:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So she's going to move into Aquarius and eventually go over a lot of the points that the sun just went over yesterday, including the square to Uranus. So if the sun is representing our action and our thoughts about a situation, you know, it's very masculine, it's very activated, it's the yang of the yin and yang energy. The moon is its polar opposite. It's the yin energy. It's retracting, it's internalized. It has to do with emotions and feeling and actual physical manifestation as well. The thing about the moon, you know, the sun, we're always paying attention to the sun because it's the center of our solar system. It's hard to lose track of the sun. It's constantly in our focus, and that's what represents that version of our higher self in terms of the archetypal psychological process that's represented in the astrology wheel, the wheel of the zodiac. And so we're never really forgetting about the sun ever. It's always where we're focused and where we're headed towards. And so it's very obvious and active to us in our consciousness, in our awareness. The moon, on the other hand, you don't even know she's there unless the light is from the sun is shining on her. I mean, she certainly does exist and continues to orbit the Earth, but it's a really apt representation of what goes on for us subconsciously and internally and emotionally, even with our desires and our instincts, that they are under the surface, running in the background, in the subconscious, in places that we are not actively thinking about. And it's only until the light of the sun shines on the moon that we're like, oh, the moon, which is why the full moon time is when things come to the surface that need to be addressed and looked at and cleared away, that are toxic to us or aren't really serving our life anymore. So, but with a new moon, the moon is also dark. So it's a time we also don't get to see really what's going on under the surface. We've had the opportunity in the end of the last lunar cycle, the last half since the last full moon, to clear all that stuff out. And this is now a new cycle. But the moon is going to come over these points, Chiron, and then the square to Uranus, before the actual new moon. So we're going to get a preview of how we feel about things that maybe just kind of exploded yesterday. I think there was a lot of potentially really fiery words, fiery actions, some flared tempers, perhaps some tantrums, lots of intense emotional expression, I think. And now the moon for the full moon is going to come by and also hit those points and show us how we're actually feeling about it, how it's impacting us on a deeper level, how it's been impacting us. But before we get to that point, let's go piece by piece here for all the different things lining up. There's a lot of red in this chart today, and that red is it is always a challenging aspect. It's a square, it's a semi-square, it is an opposition or a sesquisquare. It's any geometric angle that provides some sort of resistance or things not lining up correctly. And so it seems like that this is really challenging, and I think actually it is. And there's a couple things that we can look to that are going to help us. But the moon is coming through the late area of Capricorn. It's past everything now. Today, as I'm filming this, it's lining up with Saturn and Pluto today. So also the first time that she's been here since they conjuncted, and since the lunar eclipse, and since the solar eclipse, really. And so this is really the first time that we get an internalized emotional sense of what all that means. And with the square to Uranus from the sun and then a new moon tomorrow, I think it's a lot personally. I think that we are being asked to look at a lot and to transmute a lot, and so we can set intentions for this next cycle in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the age we're coming into. We're leaving the Piscean age. We're moving into this, this place, this dimension that is actually multidimensional, and Aquarius really represents that. It's beyond the physical material realm that we live in, and is the use of technologies and other systems in order to basically open your third eye and get a sense of the cosmic consciousness. And that's why, and it's all in the mind, right? That's why Aquarius tends to be aloof and seemingly detached, because it's about the concept. It's very conceptual about humanity. It's the collective, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and it's like the collective third eye. So that, it's very hard to bring Aquarius down to earth, especially as it gets into the later degrees, I feel like. But the moon is going to be in late Capricorn before this happens, and she is going to be having some squares to, where are we here, Venus, some semi-squares, and Mars. And they are so, look at this, 1326 and 1433. I mean, they're just a day or so away from squaring each other, Venus and Mars. And so that's the manifestation of the divine feminine, the manifestation of the divine masculine into actual archetypes that humans fall into. And we're going to see, this is the crusader, the religious crusader over here. And this is the goddess. The goddess really tapped into this space where everybody is one, and there is ultimate spiritual love and forgiveness. And you can see how there would be a square between these places, because there is this ever expansive optimism. And then with Mars here, it's just full steam ahead, superhero energy. And she is definitely in a very beautiful, very harmonious, very watery, dreamy state. And they are just, it's going to be interesting. That's all I'm going to say. But before that happens, so the moon in these late mastery degrees of Capricorn is going to semi-square, 45-degree angle with both of these early in the morning on the 24th, potentially while some of us are still sleeping. So again, the moon does rule our subconscious and the realms we don't see. So dream time could be very interesting in giving us a lot of information about maybe how to handle when these two actually square each other, because the moon is how we feel. And so it's going to show us how we feel, in a very subtle way that we can't quite put our finger on. It's not quite a square, it's 45 degrees. So there is some resistance, but it also could, it's not a complete, one's not broadsiding the other, but there is definitely an impact here. So from the moon and being in late Capricorn, I think that, that's a certain level of mastery of natural law. Capricorn is materialism and its structures and institutions, but nature is also, a generating system. It is the law that we cannot move past as we live on Earth. We're all subject to natural law. And I think once we get to late Capricorn, that becomes very obvious that there is a very strict law of nature that nothing gets around, and we have to, that's where real power comes from. Nature has incredible amount of power. And she'll move on, the moon, she'll move on to Aquarius in the morning, 5:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this is where she's going to start making connections to the same places that the sun had been in 2 days prior. So having a sextile to Chiron as well in Aries right here, and then the square to Uranus in Taurus, which is right here, showing us where we are actually feeling about those things. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then the moon comes, the full moon, I keep wanting to call it that. Geez, I'm really ahead of myself. The new moon happens in the afternoon or the evening, depending on where you are. And once she moves past that place and the light starts coming back, then we are in a position to start sowing the seeds of our intention. But right now is a good time, especially with the moon void off course, not to really make any decisions or to put any plans into action, but really allow yourself to, sink into the moon space, I think, and especially as she hits Chiron and Uranus, because it's going to really show how you feel about things. And when you get a handle of that and can get grounded into that, that will give you a lot more information about how to move forward. And Aquarius is innovative. Aquarius is the collective consciousness. And so we're in a position to find where we are, find our unique self that is actually the perfect puzzle piece for this collective that we're part of, because that's the issue, I think, with Aquarius as well, is that there's a desire for freedom, and there is a desire to do things outside the box, and there's this rebellion. And evolution doesn't really just happen without some sort of technology. And technology doesn't mean like technology like computers, although that is definitely part of it, but like yoga is a technology, meditation is a technology, chanting is a technology. I mean, we're talking real basic actual techniques that are used to change consciousness or to speed up evolution. So I wanted to actually talk about the Sabian symbol for 5 degrees of Aquarius, which is where, if we round up, that's where the new moon is going to happen. And it's a train entering a tunnel. And again, it's about this technology piece, because it's the ability to bypass the normal hierarchy or the normal progression of evolution. And in this case, human evolution or natural evolution, but we're going to talk about human evolution and consciousness. When you think about a tunnel, there was a hole basically dug through some sort of material blockage, like a mountain, for instance. The tunnel was built through so that the train could go through. And this is the bypassing symbolism, that using technology, we can speed up the rate at which we get to where we're going. And so with the new moon there in that degree with the sun, I mean, we're really being asked to embrace what that technology is for us, and collectively too. I mean, it's not just about us as individuals and how this is going to affect your personal life, but it's also about us as a collective, considering that Aquarius is about the collective. Like there's going, a seed is going to be planted. The potential is being developed right now to connect with this technology, whatever it is, to speed it up. And so, man, with a square to Uranus just 2 days ago, and for this to happen, I mean, this is really sanctifying it in some weird way, or like bringing it into reality, or certainly like the spell is being cast. The seed point is, the seed point. I just keep getting so much information right now, and just how intense it is. I think it can be very challenging right now. I mean, I think it is challenging right now, and things are very, very flared. but but that's the thing. It's like, this is the train tunnel. It's like the dynamite, you know, the sun squaring Uranus is like the dynamite that, you know, that, created the tunnel in the first place. And now with the new moon, it's like this beginning of a cycle that is allowing that explosion has actually created the tunnel that we're going through. It definitely feels like we're going through a tunnel, or that we are like, you know, passing through something. And the new moon is definitely like a very clear point where collectively we are moving through that tunnel. And the sun squaring Uranus, it felt like the dynamite that exploded the tunnel. And also too, having a sextile to Chiron, because I think that getting triggered in like our you know, our shame and our woundedness about who we are as people, and just our I am that I am, and our existence, you know, that I deserve to even be. I think that got triggered a lot too with the sun in Aquarius. And I think that was enough to like light the fuse. And then, you know, but now we have this train tunnel, and we are bypassing, you know, having to go all the way around it so we can get to where we're going. So buckle up, guys. It's kind of like, that's what it feels like. And then with Mercury also in Aquarius, the incoming, and also look at that sextile, almost exact too, like a day away with Mars. And so you have Mars having a sextile with Mercury, and then Mars having a square with Venus. And Mercury is, we're getting so much information right now, and it is kind of like hovering up here. It's this it's these ideas that are not it's these ideas that are really high level and not really attached at all to what's going on seemingly in reality. But this is certainly where, you know, we want to engage this space, you know, as much as we can. And then to have a sextile with Mars, I mean, this crusading beliefs, you know, this crusade for this belief system, you know, what we feel is the truth. You know, Mercury in Aquarius is certainly going to support that, and they're going to support each other and activate each other. The problem is that Mercury in Aquarius, again, is very detached and aloof, and it is very heady, very, very heady. And then to have Mars, who is like a religious crusader at this point in Sagittarius and just getting stronger and stronger, this could certainly basically not take into account how anybody feels, like what's going on for anybody personally. It's definitely very heady, and it's very transcendent. So, but if you are tapping into that space, and then also too, when Mars squares Venus at the same time, you know, really challenging this desire to find harmony in our relationships, and like a deep spiritual love in those relationships, and to be inspired. It's I think it's really going to be like all happening up here, and we're going to feel very motivated and possibly self-righteous about what's coming in mentally, what's coming in about the collective. So just be mindful of that, because we are, again, the tunnel imagery is so strong right now, and like getting buckled up and like, you know, going into warp speed through the tunnel. That's what it feels like, is that we're like, you know, on the precipice of that. And as soon as, you know, that new moon hits, it's going to be like going into hyperdrive. And then we're going to be somewhere really quick, and there's going to be some stuff going on right after that, that we're going to come out of hyperdrive, and we're going to be right in the middle of kind of a shit storm, it looks like. So be prepared for that. The night's, you know, the day is going to end the evening or into early morning, the 25th, with the moon in Aquarius, then having a quincunx, or an inconjunct with the nodes. And, you know, this aloof detachment with the moon in Aquarius, you know, kind of feeling very, also feeling very much like internally, you know, this drive and instinct towards like freedom and mental, you know, freedom of ideas, you know, freedom to be yourself, and as part of the collective, a unique individual. It's definitely going to not line up at all with this Cancer Capricorn energy, because it's all mental. You know, Capricorn and Cancer is very water and earth, very feminine, very much about what's going on in the body, what's going on in the emotions, in the endocrine system, you know, what's going on that's physical, that material that we can like connect to on that level. And the moon in Aquarius is definitely not there. You know, she is thinking about, you know, galactic councils, and she's thinking about um, the higher echelons of like mental experience and intellectuality. So there's going to be, that's going to be an interesting way to end the day. And where it just feels very heady, and it feels very light speed ahead type of energy. So that's all I can say is buckle up, because it's going to be, it's already been a bumpy ride, but now it's going to be bumpy because we're going light speed. And when we come out of light speed in the next day or two, it's going to be real, and it's going to challenge us, I think. So I wouldn't be too worried necessarily. I wouldn't like be afraid. Fear gets you nowhere. And this is the great thing about astrology, because you can kind of anticipate that things might go in certain directions or carry a certain energetic frequency or signature, you know, that you can kind of expect. And that way you can be mindful of it as it's unfolding and have some grounding in something, and not just feel like you're being, you know, if you don't buckle up before going to light speed, I mean, geez. Or like getting on a roller coaster without putting the lap bar, you know, putting the bar on, or getting restrained, you just get tossed. And that could very well happen if you are not taking care of yourself or being mindful of what's going on inside of you and outside of you, and what's yours and what's not yours. So I'm going to go live in a little while, and I'm going to do some readings for each of the individual signs and how this new moon in Aquarius is going to affect everybody, with a little bit more individualized attention and with some tarot cards, either Thoth or Akashic or both. So thank you for joining me for this new moon report. Thanks for bearing with me as my technology issues are making things a little inconsistent. And I think it's just really important to get the information out there. So I just keep moving. I'm just keep moving forward and not being deterred by other things that are changing, and when things don't line up the way you need to, because the important thing is just communicating the message, and for all of us to be ourselves and to trust that, and to keep showing up even when other things, you know, throw you off course, because there's continuing to be a lot of them, I think. So have a good new moon, and try to be intentional about it, and know where your thoughts are, and be very clear with yourself about where they are. And I will see you guys on the live soon to do all the 12 signs and pull some cards for everybody. Thank you for being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, all of my information is in the description box below. Book readings, check out my services, and see more daily updates on my Facebook page, CatalystEnergies. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves. Bye.